Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Steven. So at the end of my last video, I mentioned that I was going to film a little something about how my life has changed or ways that my life has been improved since becoming a flight attendant. And I've written some notes down here and I'm going to try and follow them as a guide because you know how I ramble. So let's start with the first one. I wrote down confidence. Now, if you watch any of my videos about getting a flight attendant job, like the Goldfish Bowl question video or the video interview or face-to-face interview videos, I mentioned confidence and how important it is to project a sense of confidence. I've become pretty skilled at putting up this facade of the illusion that I am confident. I am frequently not terribly confident. I have fairly low to middle self-esteem. I struggle with it. People typically, because I'm big and I'm loud and I typically have a one-liner at my disposal, people typically think that I'm confident or I don't really struggle with self-esteem. I do. I'm not quite sure how you folks perceive me here on this YouTube channel or on Facebook if you know me there. But I do struggle quite a bit, and it has always been a challenge for me. Frequently enough, people will perceive me as being confident because I do, I guess I try really hard to project that. And they'll always say, hey, Stephen, get on stage and do this, or hey, you know, go be our spokesperson for this, or they're going to elect me in this position to do this. And I do it because I don't want to disappoint people, but I do feel a lot of anxiety and stress. When I face it and get past it, I'm always a better person for it, but it has been a struggle. But becoming a flight attendant and surviving, actually not even surviving, thriving in the training environment and becoming a flight attendant and doing my job, I've discovered that I'm really capable and that I'm a perfect fit for this job, I think. And I get a lot of positive reinforcement to suggest that I might be right. This is the first time in my life I can say that I'm really perfectly suited for what I'm doing and for whom I work for. It's just perfect. And there is a sense of confidence that's been building up over this past year in that I am capable and that I'm doing the right thing. It's fantastic. It's inspired me in little teeny ways that might sound silly to actually be a little bit more courageous in my life. You know, I don't talk about it a lot, which is a surprise, but I have extreme fear of the dentist, and I have some dental work I have to get done. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to pay for it. But I have to get some dental work done very, very soon, or I'm going to suffer some consequences. My fear of the dentist has stopped me from actually calling the dentist and getting anything done. Yesterday, I went online, I found a dentist on my health insurance, my dental insurance. I called and I made an appointment for Friday, just to have them look at my mouth and see what has to be done and see if we can talk about, you know, payments and stuff like that. So it sounds like I'm a bad adult, and sometimes I am, that making a dentist appointment takes courage and confidence, but for me, it did. And it's easier. It's been easier now that I have proof that I can get through things that were difficult for me. Another stupid example, and I'm not sure why I'm going to tell you this, is that I still play a video game called Skyrim. It's been, I don't know, out for like 6 years or more, and I still play it. But for years, I played it on easy, on the simplest level, because I don't like to fail, you know. The past few months, I've been playing it at slightly higher challenge level, on higher difficulty levels, and it's been much more fun. I've really had a great time. And I think this is an example of little ways that being successful at work has really, is really creeping into other aspects of my life. So I'm becoming a much more confident person. Again, I'm not sure how you guys perceive me, but I am a person in transition from being living in fear to living with courage. All right, so my strengths are equal to my successes, is something else I wrote down here. Every job I've ever had has been measured by, in its success, by the number of dollars I brought in that day or numbers of items I sold that day. And my success has always been measured based on things that were out of my control. In this job, my success is based on whether or not I'm doing my job consistently, whether my passengers, our guests, are safe, whether they feel safe and comfortable, and that they're being cared for, that they're having a nice time when they're on our aircraft. I did write down here that I love my guests and they know it. I treat them as if they're my friends or my family, and it makes every aspect of my job easier. If I treat them all with a pleasant tone and with respect, and we are having a nice time in the air, if there is a problem or a challenge, it's diminished, I think, by the tone I've set before there was a problem. And I think that is part of my success in my job. Those things that I mentioned are in my control. I can choose to not let a bad day affect my behavior on board. I can choose to not have challenges invited onto my aircraft by me. You know what I mean? So my success at work is within my control, where in the past, my success was really, for the most part, out of my control. I could do what I could, but for the most part, it was up to the customer that whether or not they bought or kept what they bought. Let's see. I feel valuable. I'm not sure why I wrote that, but I do. Community. All right, so I have discovered many people find their first experience with being part of a community in the church. Now, I've never been a church person. My mother wasn't a church person, and she kind of didn't introduce me to that at all. But for me, my first experience with feeling part of a community was in the recovery community. I don't drink, and there's a reason I don't drink. So I've been in recovery for more than 15 years now. And I discovered a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and a sense of common understandings, common beliefs, and common experiences, and a common language. And that was really influential in helping me become who I am today, and helping me discover my ideal self, who I really, really, really want to be in the perfect world, and try to bring that forward. But in that recovery community, you know, we do talk about bringing those skills that we learn to the rest of our lives and to the bigger world around us. And I was okay with that. I wasn't terribly successful because I never really, at work, for example, if you're working at Neiman Marcus or Saks or, you know, David Yurman or wherever, you're working with people, for the most part, who have nothing really in common with you in a deep, deep sense. We can have a common understanding topically at work, but we all have, you know, once we leave work, there's really no common language. In the airline industry, everyone we work with has pretty much the same experience. This job changes everything. It touches every aspect of our lives, how we interact with friends and family, the amount of sleep we get, our diet. We have so many things in common that we can help each other in terms of maneuvering this new environment for us. There's a community there that, and an understanding, and we call, in recovery, we call it a language of the heart. I understand my coworkers in the airline industry to a much more deeper degree than you would in any other business. I think the only common experience might be in the military. You know, if you're in the Army or the Marines, you know exactly what it is like to be a Marine or a member of the Army to your soul. And I think as flight attendants, you develop an understanding and a sense of community and belonging that you get nowhere else, outside of maybe religion to a degree and the military. But it's a great community, and I do feel special within it. Because of my company, because of our company culture, I do feel like I'm part of something. It's wonderful. What did I write here? I wrote, my company is always trying to improve at every level. Each of us does our part to lift our company, its value, and our guest experience, and the quality of our lives to a higher level each day. Yes, there are some bad apples, but like bad apples, hopefully one day they'll just fall from the tree and roll away, leaving us to to have a nicer experience, you know. But I have found a sense of community working in the airline that is unlike anything else, and I do feel blessed to be a part of it. Let's see, what did I say? Oh, career. Well, it's given me a career. You know, I used to say my career was in sales. But every job in sales that I had was just a stepping stone to the next job. I really never saw a future with anybody. The closest was probably Neiman Marcus, but that was before the economy really collapsed. And I don't know if that genre of retail will ever really recover. I'm not sure if the real true luxury experiences will rebound, maybe in the future, but so I wrote down here, I've drifted through many jobs, moving along some unknown current, never really knowing where I'd end up. Again, because every job I had was just the next job. And you know, I shouldn't say this like I suffered. You know, I started working in a cart in Faneuil Hall Marketplace selling hot sauce or kiosk. And then at the end of my retail career, I was working at Neiman Marcus, Saks, you know, in luxury environments. So I can't say that I was suffering so much, but it never felt like home. It never felt like home. It never felt like a true career. I knew I'd never be able to retire. That's what I wrote down next. I know that I have a future here in this industry. This is the last job I'm ever going to have. And in the future, when I'm a very, very old flight attendant, I will be able to retire. And that's a comfort that is something that is foreign to me. I've never imagined that I might find a real place where I could do my job, work very hard, and then have time to relax and enjoy my life. What did I write down here? Each day I'd inventory what I'd have to do the next day just to break even. I went to bed each night worrying that I'd never have enough of what I thought I needed. You know, in retail, in my luxury retail experience, most of it on flat commission, you know, you're working at selling something, you finally sell it, then it comes back. So you earned the money, and then you got the money, and then the item was returned, and so the business is going to take that money out of your next check. So you're kind of just like walking around going, man, you know, you can't catch a break. And I was fairly successful in my jobs. I was fairly successful in sales. I'd never want to sell something if I didn't think it was going to stay sold. But you know, again, like I mentioned in another earlier, is that many of things in that career path just felt out of my control. Now I live almost without stress with a job I adore. My head hits the pillow at night without worry. I have enough of what I need and more. I love my work. I have a career. This is my last job. I know that some people will see this job as a stepping stone, but this is my last job. Freedom. I only have two more things here that I want to talk about. Freedom. I can go where I want almost at any time, travel to see friends, cuddle with puppies. There's 2 dogs in Atlanta and 2 dogs in Boston that I really... Now, I love my friends and I would travel to see my friends, but it's nicer to go and spend it with time cuddling with these puppies. I get to see wonderful places What else did I write down? Or just to sit by a pool and spend the entire day in the sun, or spend the entire day in bed watching Netflix. Actually, I canceled my Netflix subscription because I wasn't watching it. I was watching YouTube videos for the most part. But I do watch my Amazon Prime. I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who right now. I am stress-free for the most part. And when I get off that plane, my job is over. I don't think about work again until it's preparing food for my next trip. You know, it's the easiest job. I have complete freedom. When I'm off, I'm off. I'm not the person who chases trips to get more hours and credits because I really like my time off. If I want to go to San Francisco for the weekend, I would go. Right now I'm not because I don't have a lot of money. You know, I'm going to go. I have a couple layovers this month, April, that are longer than 24 hours or more. And I'm looking forward to going to Houston. I'm going to spend some time, hopefully, with my friend Melanie, in case she's watching this video. Hi, Melanie. I might be visiting you. You know, it's fantastic, the amount of free time I have, but also the freedom from stress and anxiety in terms of my work life. And I wrote down here, I'm free to have an avocation. So you know, a vocation is, you know, work, what you do for work, your job, your responsibility. An avocation is something I would describe as being something that is work, but it's more for pleasure or reward. And so I may have mentioned I'm a potter. I want to be an artist full-time one day when I retire. I think in a few months, when I'm actually making a little bit more money and I have a better grasp on my schedule and how to manipulate it, I'm going to have more free time, and I'm actually going to look into, there's a local clay studio in Las Vegas, which I didn't think you could have because the climate here is so arid. It would make working with clay a little tricky. I'm going to look into getting back into art, which brings me so much joy. Next time I'm back in Atlanta, I'm going to show you a few pieces of my work that I really like, so you can see what I do. But I'm also free to spend the time I need and the time I want to spend in my recovery. There's a whole community that I now have time to participate in. I went to a meeting tonight. I had been asked to speak. It was for like 50 minutes, almost an hour. And it was wonderful to be there and introduce myself to the recovery community in Las Vegas. And it was fantastic. But I have the free time to do all these things. And again, freedom from stress and freedom from a lot of anxiety. So that is a big change in my life. And the last one I wrote down here is kind of a, going back to my last video, is a roof over my head. You know, before getting this job, I was living in my minivan in Florida, which is not terribly, not really the best experience. It was difficult and exhausting and kind of shameful. There's a degree, but I got through it. I survived, and I'm a better person for it. But you know, this job, while it doesn't pay a lot, it's giving me what I need right now to have a studio apartment. I have my cell phone paid. My credit card's paid right now. I am kind of anxious about my dental work that I have to have done, but that'll come. That'll happen. You know, so having a roof over my head has been another big change that has been made possible by my job here as a flight attendant. If I had taken, because if you watch that last video about what I was doing before I got this job, if I had taken the path of staying in Atlanta and working at Saks Fifth Avenue selling fine jewelry, I don't know what would have happened to me. I have an idea of how much money I'd be making at the minimum. And I know that the environment right now for luxury jewelry, for fine jewelry, it's not easy first to sell it because, you know, you're out there trying to peddle $60,000 hoops. You know, it's difficult to sell those things. So the money, if it came, would be super sporadic. I don't know. I am quite comfortable with what I'm doing right now, what I'm making right now. I'm making it work. And that is fantastic. So those are some things that I wrote down about ways that my life has changed in this last year and ways that I think I've become a better person over this past year. Oh, you know, the one thing I meant to write down here, because, you know, I'm famous for saying something at the end of my video. One more thing that I am super, super grateful for, and that's a big change in my life, is, you know, I always try to be a good person. I always try to do the next right thing. But in this job, people are watching you. If you're working, someone is watching every move you make. It's people who are very, very critical. Our guests, our passengers, they're always looking for something, you know, they can film or video and put on Facebook, or people are always watching us as flight attendants. We're always being noticed. Everything we do is watched. If we say something to one of our guests on an aircraft, 10 people around them hear it, you know, so everything you do is under scrutiny. And in the past, I've really tried to step up and be a good person every time. But now that I've been a flight attendant for a year, I've gotten used to everything I say and everything I do on the aircraft being seen by other people. So I've tried to up my game and make everything I do better. Every experience I participate in on the aircraft, I try to make better, because somebody's watching, and somebody's mood and someone's day might be affected by some little gesture I make. That's, I think, the consistency of me being kind. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I try to be a good person, but I'm consistently nicer, without expecting a reward or anything. I just know that people are watching, and it's made it easier to be nicer. I'm not sure why, but I have rambled long enough. So feel free, leave a comment below, because I would like to know, maybe if you're a flight attendant now, what parts of your life have really been affected or changed? Or, you know, whatever you're doing in life, you know, what sort of changes or improvements do you think you've been able to make in your life, in your work life? All right, so there you go. Leave a comment below, and I'll talk with you later. Fly safe. Bye.